So that's great. Okay. Can you guys see me? Can you hear me? Can you smell my office? Just kidding, you can't. All right, let's see. Good to see everyone here. So at the end of the last class, but Jared Ball, I'm glad to see that you're present and accounted for. I thought maybe that you got COVIDed or something. Or you just slept really well, soundly, like a baby. That's great. I did show this to at the end of my last class, but I'm just so impressed with this. I just think this is the coolest thing. So there are new filters on Zoom that I think make it more engaging. So I know this looks like one of those Thug Life videos, but the one that I thought really was great is something like this maybe. Or, here's one I could see Rebecca and Kaylin doing a dual Instagram video with, something like this, where they're trying to be like twins or maybe like little, I don't know, maybe, that one, that, I'm Bambi's dad. Okay, anyway, maybe I won't do any right now. I don't want to be any more distracting, but okay, I don't want to make you cough too hard, Abigail. How are you feeling, Abigail? No? Okay, all right. You don't have to.
I have a head cold.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, well, let me do a quick roll call here. Let's see. Fundamentals Business Management, Jared, Kaylin.
I was expecting the camera to cut on and you to be playing the piano, so a little bit disappointed.
So when you guys joined the room, could you hear and see, you could hear the music and see the video, or could you only see the video? You could hear it also? Okay, all right, great. That was the intended effect. I'm always nervous though, you play a YouTube music video and then some awkward commercial comes up when I'm not there to, screen it real quick. So it's not my fault if something like that happens. Okay, everyone's here, this is great. Okay, well, today in Fundamentals of Business Management, let's see here. I want to walk through a couple of things. We're in a new chapter, and I did, if you check your assignments, a bunch of assignments just dropped. So, matter of fact, all the chapter 5 assignments just dropped. Some of them are due Wednesday, some are due Friday, and I think the quiz is due next Monday. So most of them are watch and answer type things. I think the only one that is a quiz is the one that's due next Monday. So shouldn't be too bad. There's multiple assignments, but frankly, you've got more time on your hands, so I don't feel too bad. And it's a pretty simple topic. The one thing I do is when I'm assigning the questions for the quizzes, it usually gives me like 25 questions. I eliminate almost all of the, what do you call them? Like where it's like a word problem type question where it says, oh, Mary works at IBM and she stole 3 pencils. And, I eliminate all the questions like that and just get it down to just a few simple points so that you get the main things. So I think the quiz might only have 6 questions this time, so it's really lightweight. Let's take a quick look at Canvas real quick just to make sure we are okay. So Fundamentals Business Management. For some reason I can't see you guys. Hold on. I'm like, so someone turn their audio on and tell me, can you see Canvas right now?
Yeah, we can see Canvas.
Okay. For some reason this time I can't see you guys. Before I could see everybody. I don't know why that changed. And can you see me in like a little box in the corner or no?
Yes.
You can, okay. But I just can't see you guys for some reason. That's so weird. All right, well, as I click on everything in sight, hold on just a second. I don't know why. It won't let me. Sorry. I just want to figure this out real quick so I can see you guys while I'm doing this here. Yeah, it should be working. Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. I just want to make sure I get this right because this is just too much fun to not be able to see everybody. Speaker view. Oh, maybe it's because I'm on speaker view instead of gallery. Okay, let me try this one more time here. Let's give it a shot. And still, I can't see you guys. Erg. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop that. Let's try this again. I don't know why. Don't know why it's doing it this way. It must be which screen I'm trying to share. Sorry guys, just 1 second. This is going to work eventually. Okay, maybe if I do this. Oh, there you go. It's based on which one I click on for sharing. Okay, can you guys see Canvas right now? Yes? And can you see everyone on the right side of the screen or just me? Hello?
Everyone.
You can see everyone? So it obscures part of the screen? Yes? Okay. Sorry. Well, at least
we can make it smaller.
Oh,
Yeah,
you can?
You can see the whole screen.
Aha.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's great. Okay, great. Well, I kind of like seeing everyone. So, let's rotate through the faces though every once in a while. So everyone gets a little bit of attention. All right. Don't want Max to feel neglected down there. All right, let's take a quick look here. Did we have anything in the announcements? No. Okay, so those that missed the class, we did, I think I did not upload the new video yet of the class. There was one of the 3 classes from Friday I haven't uploaded yet. I'll go back and check that out. We have no new discussions. Okay, this is great. All right, so I'm gonna go back to home. Let's take a look at this PowerPoint. So you guys can see the PowerPoint, right? Great. Oh, and I just moved. Now, can you see each other's faces still or no? Yes, okay, all right. I just moved it off to my second screen. Let's just take a look through this PowerPoint real quick. I wanna fly through this. It's a very simple topic. Now, can you guys see a full PowerPoint slide right now or just the presenter view where it shows like the notes and everything?
Just the presenter view.
Okay, all right. So, okay, well, hey, now you know what it's like to be me. You can see what I'm seeing. I don't care. All right, let's just fly through some of this here. We're going to talk about planning because that is a significant portion of what a business person, a manager, a leader has to do. And so planning being one of those 4 primary functions of a manager. As you can see here, planning has different, basically different reasons why people have to plan. Reduce the impact of change, minimize waste or redundancy, provide direction, or set the standard to facilitate control. These are kind of obvious things. Why do people have to plan? Because things happen or we know things are going to happen. And so people have to step in leadership and make plans based on that. Some people don't like planning. So out of the class here, let me see if I can see everyone's faces. How many of you like planning? Raise your hand. Okay, like 2 of you. How many of you would rather kind of figure it out as you go? You're not necessarily into planning. Okay, all right. So me, I am a, when I do planning, it's only about things that I really care about. Things that I feel like are kind of lightweight or easy, I don't like to waste any additional hard drive space planning for it. I like to just do it. So like if I'm going to be asked to speak at something, like in a month, there's going to be a special chapel during missions conference where they're announcing the upcoming missions trips and I'm leading one of the trips. I don't need to know a month in advance so I can plan what I'm going to say. I need to know like 15 minutes in advance so I can plan what I'm going to say. So that's kind of how I function in that way. And the reason why some people don't like formal planning is because you kind of get locked into it. So if you ever work with people that are like hyper planners, once the plan's in place, it's almost like you can't violate the plan or it's a sin. Maybe you have friends like that. You end up having no room for creative, like last minute suggestions. You focus on today's success, not tomorrow's survival. So planning does not necessarily take into account what's happening right now, and reinforces success, which may lead to failure. So just because something has worked, we don't want to plan that that's going to always work. And so again, it's just obvious things about planning that we need to kind of keep in mind. Formal planning, organizational performance. Does it pay to plan? Well, in business, without planning, you cannot count on your profits going up. You cannot count on your assets growing. You cannot count on the quality of planning getting any better. So if you've had a hard time planning in the past, if you don't keep planning, it's not going to get any better. And you can't count on the result being implemented the right way. So I'm just kind of flying through this real quick because I want to get to something else. But strategic management, here we go. I'm going to turn this off now. Okay, everyone's back. So strategic management, you guys cannot see the screen on strategic management, correct? Okay, great. So someone give me a working definition of what does the word strategic mean?
Purposely planned to fit a goal.
Okay, so yeah, so purposely, something that has been purposefully planned specifically with a goal in mind. Anyone want to add to that?
Calculated and well thought out.
Yep. So there has to be a certain amount of thinking and calculation that goes into that. What else?
Really adjusting for
Use it.
Oh, go ahead, Noah.
A lot of times you use it against someone else, like if like in battle or war, or if you have a game against them or chess match.
Yeah, yeah, good. So strategy, it has a direct correlation to what your strategy is against, whether it's an opponent or a variable. Jared, what'd you have to say?
pretty similar. Adjusting to specific obstacles. I was thinking military as well.
Yeah. So some of you have heard me talk about this before, but what's the main difference? How many of you have played checkers before? All right. And how many of you know how to play chess? Okay. Kaylin, once you're done eating that bite, what's the main difference? Since you haven't heard this illustration from me before, but some other students have, describe how does the game of checkers work? Let's start with checkers. I'm going to ask you about checkers, then I'm going to ask you about chess. So tell me about the game of checkers. Tell me, how do you win at checkers? What are the moves, things like that?
Can you mute yours? It's not going really bad. Hang on. Okay. In checkers, you use checkers, and you set them up on either side, and then your goal is just to get all of yours to the other side. And then when you do that by jumping over people, and then you make them lose their pieces, and then getting kings and stuff is easier because you have more freedom. So you're just trying to get all of their checkers off the board.
How many different types of pieces are there?
One, just two different colors.
Yeah. And then if you
Get a king, then
get a king, that's the same one. It's just stacked on top of each other. What about so there are all those squares on the board. What squares do you move on?
Black?
Like when you play checkers, right? So the board is a checker board, right?
Yeah.
So can you move on any square you want on the whole board?
Oh, no, you have to go diagonal.
diagonal, right? So if you're playing on the blacks, then you can only move on the black diagonal ones, right? Okay, so now, Kaylin, that's a good description of checkers. Describe the game of chess to someone that doesn't know anything about chess. You don't have to give the whole breakdown, but describe in general the game of chess.
It's kind of like a mini game of war. So you have your line in the front that is very limited, but they can do a little bit of damage, and they're mainly there to protect your important people in the back. And then the people in the back, the ones on the side in the back, have a little less movement options, but more than the people in the front. And then the closer you get to the back middle is where all of the power is, where you have the most options and you can do the most, like getting other people's stuff out of the way wise. But your goal is to get all of their pieces off the board in the same manner, but you want to keep your queen and your king alive, because your king most of all, but your queen is more important, to be honest.
So let's pick one piece on the board. Let's pick the one that looks like a castle. What can that piece do?
Can only go straight, so it can't ever go diagonal.
Would that be considered a more valuable piece than the pawn?
I would say yes, just because I feel like you have more opportunities, because with the pawn you can only move 1 or 2 spots at a time. So
Right.
I would say yes.
So if you were to take the two games and compare what you just described to the two games, Kaylin, what would you say is the biggest differences between checkers and chess?
Chess takes a lot more brain power. With checkers, I feel like it's just, stay on these squares, skip over people, move their pieces. But with chess, you actually have to focus on protecting certain pieces. You have to think about what other pieces can do and what is your best move at that time, or you lose a lot quicker.
All right. And Kaylin just described basically through illustration what strategy is. Strategy is having to calculate out what you're going to do, what it's going to cost you, what to protect, what to defend, where to move, when to move. And chess is actually probably more complicated than most of us have experienced, unless you're really into chess. Each piece on a chessboard has a point value. And then because you can use all the squares on the board, but each piece has a certain way that they're allowed to move or not move, there's millions and millions of options in every chess match. And chess is not a reactionary game. If you play it in a reactionary way, so let's say that someone just taught you how to play chess, it's your first time playing chess, and you've always played checkers, you're probably going to lose over and over and over again, because you cannot play chess the way you play checkers. Checkers is what Kaylin said. It's a reactionary, hey, they moved in front of me, I jump over them, I get their checker. I get to the other side, I get 2 checkers, I move back the other direction. It's very reactionary. It's what you would call a tactical approach. It's just move, attack, get back. Chess, on the other hand, is a strategic game. The best chess players in the world think multiple steps ahead. All the really good chess players don't just think about what's on the board right now, what's my next move. The best chess players all think, what are my next 5 to 10 moves? Where do I want to force the other player's queen to get cornered? What do I want to lose in the process of trying to win the match? Is anyone familiar with the term gambit? Besides, it was a minor X-Men character. Okay, Jared, what is gambit? What is gambit? Do you know?
Gambit is sacrificing a piece for a greater move. So if I was to take my rook and place it in front of my queen, in front of the opponent's queen, then that queen takes my rook, but in the process of doing that, didn't notice my knight checking their king. That would have been a gambit.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes you make a decision based on strategy and calculation that you're willing to lose something that is valuable so you can gain something that's even more valuable. That's a gambit. And that comes from the world of chess, and we use it in other areas now. But so chess is a strategic game. So I think the concept of chess helps us to understand the concept of strategic management and strategic planning in business, because in business, in ministry, you have to think about not just what's happening today, but you have to think about what's happening next month, next quarter, next year. And then you can't just think about, well, who do we have working today? You have to think about, well, who's going to be working here a year from now? Who are we going to recruit to start working here? How do we train that person? How do we get them ready? What do we do with onboarding? And so strategic management and planning is very much like a chess match. And what happens, and there's a really good book about this called Chess Not Checkers, but a lot of businesses, I shared this with the whole faculty and staff last year. Most of them looked at me like this, but 2 or 3 of them were like, So hopefully it was interesting. But in this book, Chess Not Checkers, it talks about most businesses, most ministries, most organizations start off like a checkers game. You're reacting to what happens that day. You make the next move. As things happen, you react to that. And that's how a lot of startup businesses, church plants, small businesses, all start up, is you're just trying to survive and respond to what happens in front of you. But as organizations grow, churches, schools, businesses, they change into more of a chess match. The problem is a lot of times the leaders don't realize it. And so the leaders continue to respond to what's happening as if it's still a checkers game, but really it's become a chess match. And that lack of transition causes all kinds of headaches and problems in an organization. And that's the chess not checkers idea. That's from a book by Mark Miller. And I'll probably talk about that more in this class at some time. So let me see here. Let's keep going here. So what would be beneficial to an organization? What would you say would be a beneficial aspect to strategic planning for an organization? How can an organization benefit from the leadership being strategic?
The leadership would be planning ahead for maybe things that may or may not happen, but they would be looking ahead to possible bad outcomes, and then they could plan how they may or may not fix those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you could have a potential negative situation coming up. A leader that is thinking strategically could actually help prepare the organization to deal with that versus just letting it happen and dealing with it after the fact. Good. What else?
One thing that really good and experienced chess players do is they recount the expert chess games of old, and they study the patterns and the movements that those really good and also really bad or unfortunate chess players have made. So what a leader can do is they can research other organizations that are similar to theirs who have done either really good things or really bad things, and then pull from those moves that they've set up to better their business.
Yep. So a good leader doesn't have to learn from his own mistakes or her own mistakes. They can learn from the mistakes of others or the success of others. So they don't have to be so proud that they think that they have to go through this all themselves. So yeah. What else?
I think in terms of hiring, like instead of just trying to fit the need of an empty position, they can plan strategically as to who would be the best fit, who's going to be here the longest and benefit the company the most.
Yep. Very good. Yeah. Just because you have an opening in your organization doesn't mean you should hire the first person that comes along. You should hire the best person that comes along, in a perfect world. Sometimes maybe you have to compromise or settle for someone because you just have to fill the position. But I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where someone hired the wrong person and you have to deal with working in that situation for a while. It can be very traumatic, and it's not very strategic for the organization. What else? How else would an organization benefit from a leader that's thinking strategically? How about this? Let me ask Rebecca. Rebecca, how would you feel if you worked in an organization where the boss was thinking strategically? How would you feel about the organization and the boss?
Well, I was actually going to say it goes along with your question and pulling from what Emmy and Jared said. I know where I worked when COVID hit, we had to close down. And then they were able to think forward to, okay, what if COVID hits again? So we're going to strategically plan how we're going to put out our fall line and then our Christmas line so that we push these products out and the same thing doesn't happen. So they were strategically thinking to push the sales.
Yeah. And did that give you a sense of security, like that there was at least a plan in place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And even customers, then they could be like, oh, what if we close down again? I want my Christmas products. We're going to be like, well, we're going to be pushing them out sooner and everything like that.
Yeah, good. So basically, strategic planning from the leader's point of view can bring some stability to the people that work there. It makes a positive impact. It prepares managers to cope with changing situations, positive or negative, and helps with future planning. So if you continue to be strategic in your thinking as a leader, then all of your future planning will already have a lot of good source material to go off of for better planning. So if you say, hey, we'll start planning next year, well, it's going to be a rough year between now and then. And then if you're waiting to start planning, you're not going to have a lot to go off of. So by being a strategic thinker as a leader, you're actually setting yourself up for better planning as you move into the future. You have more stuff to measure off of. You have more stuff to compare to. So there's all kinds of, you'll see some things in your assignments through the Pearson book. But the way the strategic management process happens is first you identify the organization's current missions, goals, and strategies. So before you can even get started, before you even know what to plan for, you have to think, okay, if I'm going to plan for something, I need to know what's the mission, the goal, the strategy, which we've talked about. It just, again, shows you how important it is to know those things, to ask those questions. And then there's something called a SWOT analysis, SWOT. Have any of you ever been involved in a SWOT analysis? This is not where you get a spanking. That's something totally different. That's SWOT, S-W-A-T. And by analysis, it's like, ooh, that one hurt worse than the last one. I don't even know if they do that anymore. The school I graduated from, I got SWATs. One time I got SWATs for allegedly putting laxative into the Diet 7-Up at the class Christmas party. I assumed that only girls would drink Diet 7-Up. I was wrong. The younger guys from the class below us thought I had spiked it with something else, and so they drank the whole 2 liters. That was the last day before Christmas break. So when I got back from Christmas break, the high school principal was waiting for me by my locker, and he said this, Mr. Baldwin, did you have a nice Christmas break? Yes, I did. I had totally forgotten about this little escapade. He said, oh, great. He said, I need to see you in my office. I'm like, uh-oh. And he said, oh, and bring your lunch. And it was like 7:30 in the morning. So I knew I was toast. Anyway, I might edit this out of this video or never upload it. But anyway, SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So SWOT analysis is the gold standard measurement that all American organizations use for strategic planning. Faith does it. Hy-Vee does it. Everyone uses this model because it pretty much covers the 4 things that every organization needs to be thinking about. What are our strengths? And so what you do is you get people in the organization to help you identify what are your strengths. What are your weaknesses? What areas are you lacking in? Where are you coming up short? What are your opportunities? Things that you look ahead towards and you say, ooh, we could expand, or we could do better, or we could grow. And then finally, what are your threats? What are the things that could end up negatively impacting your organization? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You'll see it in your assignments this week, but it is the gold standard. So when you go to work somewhere, they might say, hey, this usually happens once a year during their planning, whenever their planning cycle is, and they'll be like, hey, we're going to do our SWOT analysis. Well, now at least you know generally what they're talking about. It's basically a way to assess internally your strengths and weaknesses, and then externally your opportunities and your threats. Sports teams do it. Churches do it. Deacon boards do it. Everyone uses this model, SWOT, because it's kind of proven to be the best tool out there. Maybe someone will come up with something better or something more clever, but it's kind of hard to beat because it's so universal now. And because it's become a standard, it's probably hard for someone to come up with something different. So, you know, internally looking at strengths and weaknesses, externally looking at opportunities and threats. From that analysis, you take all the information and you can come up with some strategies. Okay, so how do we deal with these SWOT areas? Then how do we go from ideas to making it happen? And then finally, how do we evaluate it? Those that are in the current issues class, we're kind of doing that a little bit with the design thinking with BizLab. We're going to talk about that more and more with them, is not only identifying what the problem is, but then come up with a solution and then practice it and then evaluate it. So it kind of goes along with what our decision-making model was too, when we were talking about that last week. Let's see here. Okay, so let's come up with a fictional organization, and we're going to go through a quick SWOT analysis of things that could show up if we were doing a SWOT analysis. Let's say our company is it's a gift company. They sell knickknacks and doodads and bags of coffee and potpourri and candles and all kinds of other, you know, signs that say eat, love, pray, or pray, eat, love, or whatever. A home sweet home, mats and hand knit woolen mittens in Pella, Iowa. Okay, so it's a little shop in Pella, Iowa. It's called The Little Shop. If we were to do a SWOT analysis, what would be, you know, as we imagine what this company might be, what would be a couple strengths that a company like that right now in September of 2020 would be able to say, hey, this might be one of our strengths this year. So we're just kind of imagining if we were in a scenario with a business right now. I'm sure it has some strengths. You can just throw out something random. There will be almost no wrong answers. So what would be a strength? We'll start with Jared because he's like Mr. Creative with this kind of stuff. So The Little Shop, what would be one or two of its strengths, Jared?
Well, the one thing I was thinking of had to do with COVID, because everybody's staying home still, or a lot of people are still staying home. They're wanting to, you know, do renovations and the like, and I'm sure people are still wanting to put up decor. And if people are staying home doing more renovations, then I think it would make sense that they would do more decorating. So a house like that, or a business like that, would be able to supply those houses with all sorts of decorations for, especially if we're starting it right now, for Thanksgiving, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas.
Yeah. So strength there is just the timing is just right to be selling household decorations and things like that. Okay. I mean, what would be a weakness in a small shop in Pella that sells this kind of stuff? What would be like something you could imagine to be a weakness?
Some shops usually have some smaller shops that I've been to are usually more expensive. So you might be able to get something that they're selling from like a bigger store for cheaper almost. But so price wise, it might just be something like that someone would be considered a luxury rather than something that they need at the time. So they might not buy it because they're like, oh, I don't want to spend this much money on this product if I can get it somewhere else. So that might be a disadvantage for a smaller shop.
Yeah, good. So weakness is it sells kind of luxury items, and when it comes to people trying to get a good deal, they can go on Wayfair or whatever and try and find the same thing, and or go to another home goods type shop and find similar items, and so the value might not be there for everyone. Okay, so an opportunity. Let's go to Abigail. Do you have a voice?
Yes.
Okay, give us what would be an opportunity you could imagine for the little shop during this time?
I mean, the obvious one, I think it has the opportunity to grow, but even just like, I mean, kind of going back to what Jared was saying with COVID, like right now it has an opportunity because it's smaller. It can service people in a way that some of the bigger locations can't, things like that.
All right. So the opportunity is they distinguish themselves from maybe bigger places. They're a little more flexible, a little more agile, you would call it, in a small business to deal with some of these changes. So great. And then what would be a threat? Let's go to Noah. Noah, what would be a threat to a small company today in Pella, Iowa?
I would say maybe not a lot of people coming out to the store because of the COVID.
Yeah. So the economy has tanked in Pella, Iowa, right? It's interesting though. So at least two, maybe three of the SWOT pieces, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, at least three of them had something to do with the exact same topic, COVID. And so it shows you that with strategic planning, you can identify the good and the bad of something that's coming your way as a business, and you can adjust to it, right? So COVID has brought some great opportunity, to do new things. It might also emphasize a strength that you already have, but it could also be a direct threat because it impacts your customers differently. So it's a good exercise, and companies go. There's Faith went through this last spring after all the students had to go home. We did a SWOT analysis department by department, and you kind of come up with a brainstorm of each of these categories. Then you kind of try and boil them down into the main ones. And it's an exercise that if you work for any organization that uses this, you'll know a little more about it now. Let's see here. There's all different types of strategies. I don't want to get into all that right now. I think you're going to see a couple of videos about that and get exposed to it. You have growth strategies, which you can imagine, talk about how to grow. Stability and renewal strategies. Stability is, okay, how to keep things from changing too much. Competitive strategy, how do you get out there and try and beat other businesses, and that goes to your competitive advantage. Functional strategy, these are strategies that have to do with how you organize your organization. So what departments do you have and things like that. So when it comes to strategy, our book talks a little bit about something that it calls strategic weapons. So let's say you're the little shop in Pella. What strategic weapons do you have at your disposal that help you accomplish your mission, your vision? What are some of the things that you can use strategically? There are resources that you can use strategically, or there are things that you can implement, or things that you can emphasize strategically that you could call maybe almost a strategic weapon, or strategic superpower. What would be something, if you had the little shop, that you could say, hey, if we do this, this actually gives us an advantage, helps us to get out there and accomplish our mission?
Well, Emmy was talking about, I believe it was Emmy who mentioned that you can get the same products probably from big businesses cheaper. One of the things that small businesses have that big businesses don't are very dedicated fan bases. You've got some moms who only go to Aldi or only go to Hy-Vee or something like that. But you've got a lot of people who, once they find a small business that they really enjoy, they want to invest in it and they want to see it succeed. So what you can do as the little shop is you can structure some type of maybe email chain or some way to keep your fan base engaged and updated about what's going on in the business that a big business can't do. So you can maximize on that small fan base, if you will.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. All right. Who else? Another strategic weapon that the little shop could use.
I think of maybe just the uniqueness of the store in general. You can create a unique environment with specific products that may be found somewhere else, maybe not, but it's all coming together in one unique place that you kind of market as unique.
Yeah. So the uniqueness in general is one of those things that you could strategically leverage because so when you have a chain of stores, you have to sell whatever the whole chain sells, right? But what if in that chain, they're selling something that doesn't appeal to the people that come to Pella, Iowa? So you have the ability to be unique and stand apart and say, okay, we're going to sell things that we know work here right now versus something that maybe nationally might work on an average, but isn't working in Pella. So uniqueness, that's another strategic weapon. What else would be another strategic weapon you could use at the little shop?
I think this kind of goes along with what Max said, but just the quality of the product you're selling. A lot of people would not get something, say at Hy-Vee, because they can, like, say vegetables or something. They would rather go to a farmer's market and get fresh vegetables there because the quality's better.
Absolutely. Quality is a specific strategic weapon that you can have, that you can point to and say, hey, this is something that we have. And you're not saying that other people don't have quality. You know, it doesn't have to be a negative, right? It doesn't have to be that you're putting anyone else down. You're just saying, hey, I don't know about anyone else's quality, but I know that our quality is very good. You don't have to juxtapose it against someone else's quality. You just say, this is top quality. Maybe everyone has top quality, but we know this is top quality. That's something you can use as a strategic weapon. What else? What else could a little shop in Pella use as a strategic weapon?
I would say something that they have an advantage in is familiar faces. So you come in and you're used to seeing certain people, and you strike up a little conversation with them, and then every time you come in, you just keep building that relationship, and that definitely is something that they could use.
Yeah. Matter of fact, if you don't use that and you have the little shop in Pella, you're probably not going to be in business very long. That's something that people expect you to use as your weapon. So if someone walks into the little shop and they get treated like someone that just walked into Hy-Vee, they're not going to have the experience they were hoping for. They need to have, if they're walking in the little shop, they don't want to be treated like they're at Target, which you get treated nice at Target, but it's not the same as walking into the little shop. So yeah, that facial recognition is a big piece of that, and that can definitely be a strategic weapon. What else? Maybe let's think about what would be something that a small business could do, like the little shop, that they could do on social media that maybe a big business would have a harder time doing. Well, how could they leverage social media as a strategic weapon? I mean, big business can do anything a small business could do, but you know, theoretically, a small business might be able to do some things differently because they're small. How could they use social media differently than a big business?
I know in my town, there's this little ice cream shop that everybody absolutely loves. So when COVID hit, nobody really wanted it to die out, so they kept going to support it. But what they did with their social media is they just kept engaging the community. So they would post things regularly. They actually created a couple of new menu items specifically for like people during quarantine that they could come and like pick up on, like they leave it on the porch for you and you come pick it up. but they use social media as a way to just kind of engage the people that were immediately there. They're not really trying to reach a bigger market, just mainly the people that were in our town that were affected by it.
Yeah,
So they do giveaways
absolutely.
and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So, you know, in theory, a small business is already thinking smaller. So thinking small is not a bad thing. That's more relational. It's more engaging. I think Alyssa used the word engagement. It's a great way to be focused on engaging the specific customers instead of this broad approach. It's a very narrow approach. What about, let's see here. Okay, let's talk about what strategic weapon would the little shop have when it comes to types of employees it has? Like, what would be a strategic weapon that they could point to when it comes to their employees versus employees at Target or Walmart or something? I mean, what do you think? What do you think the little shop would have strategically with its employees that they could point to, maybe as opposed to other bigger stores?
I think the amount of employees that the small shop would have, because I think it makes a more, well, theoretically speaking, a more close-knit environment. So instead of like there being just different departments and then they're only close with the people in their department, they're close with everyone in the shop. And there's also like a level of expertise that each person would have as well. Because since it's a small shop, they're able to be like experts per se in like all of the areas rather than just like in a specific department. So there's more knowledge and more understanding of the products in that area.
Yeah, excellent. So that is something that is just like these other things, unique to being a small shop, right? So by being a small shop and by being aware that by having less employees, you are able to filter your employees more. So just by having a smaller number, you're able to have a closer knit group. They have a better camaraderie, better esprit de corps. They have better relationships. So all of these things, customer service, employee skills and loyalty, innovation, quality, social media, these are all strategic weapons that the little shop could employ to give themselves a competitive advantage. Now, as I wrap this up, we'll finish with this. I just want to say that when we're talking about strategy, like in the game of chess, it's if you're the black pieces and then your opponent is the white pieces, you're trying to conquer, collect, and eventually defeat, the other pieces on the board. And that's the player that is represented by those pieces, right? In business, that's not necessarily the goal. So I think this is what turns off a lot of people towards businesses. They think, well, I'm not the kind of person that wants to hurt someone else's business. In most places, there's plenty of room for anyone that wants to provide a good service. It might not always be true if the population is small and things like that. You can only have so many of certain businesses, but we should never look at our place in the world, whether it's business or ministry, with a scarcity mentality. Like, if we don't protect this and if we don't bump other people out of the market, then we're going to lose something of ours. I don't think that's the right idea. I don't think that strategic weapons, the term weapons almost make it seem like the enemy are other businesses. Really, the enemy is extinction. The enemy is going out of business, not other people being successful in business. So we got to make sure our thinking is right, especially as Christians in business. We need to be thinking about whatever we use strategically is to help grow our business, not to diminish other people's businesses. We have to believe there's enough business to go around. Like, could you have two Christian schools in the same town and both of them be successful? Absolutely. You don't have to say, well, we want to grow at the expense of another one shrinking. We want to grow, and we're happy to hear someone else is growing. That's a good thing, especially if they have a similar mission to what we have. So in closing, even though we talk about it as weapons and things like that, we're really the enemy is extinction. The enemy is not the other people in the marketplace. So, and that really, you know, in business, that's true. People love it when Christian business people have that attitude that we're not out there to knock anyone off. We're out there actually to be friends with other businesses, even if we're competing in the same market. But then in ministry, it's really obvious. We had a school run an ad in a newspaper that basically kind of tongue in cheek made fun of our school. Well, that's not very classy, because there are plenty of students go around for both schools, and we were like 3 times their size. So, you know, they're just picking at us, shooting at us. It's not necessary in business. So we'll stop it here for now. We'll pick back up with strategic thinking on Wednesday. Make sure you stay up on those assignments. Let me know if you have any questions. And I might upload this video, but I might edit out a little bit of the talk from the early stages. So, okay, if you need anything, just let me know. Talk to you guys later. Stay safe and 6 feet away from anyone that looks sick.